How we doing today, guys? Alex Drayson here with SPU. Today we're going to talk about how important it is to keep a neutral spine. Part of the reason why we always want to keep a neutral spine is because your spine is really not designed to do a whole lot of bending forwards and backwards. We want to avoid what we call spinal flexion, which is when your back kind of curves forwards here. And instead, what you always want to do is kind of keep your back nice and flat, like it's a nice straight line. Okay? A lot of times when we hear people that have lower back soreness, they tend to say, well, I want to stretch out my lower back. The truth is, while yes, those muscles in your low back may be a little bit tight, it's normally not their fault. There's normally other muscles that aren't working terribly well and your lower back is being forced to compensate. Namely your hamstrings, your glutes, and your hip flexors. Okay, obviously your glutes are right below your low back, so they will pull on it sometimes. In order to stretch our glutes out to help our lower back, we can do some external stretch here on the bench. Go ahead and put your foot up, get the outside of your foot flat on the bench. Gonna get our back nice and flat. Try to get that leg flat down on the bench, back leg is straight, keeping those shoulders back. Just hold this stretch here nice and easily. Once you've done 20-30 seconds, what you can handle, go ahead and switch the other leg. Again, same deal. Getting a good stretch in those glutes, making sure your back is flat, back leg is straight. There should be a straight line from my back foot, hip and shoulder, everything. This is a real good stretch to get some extra rotation in those glutes, in those hips. We talked about hip flexors as well. Your hip flexor one of your hip flexor muscles does attach from your hip flexor into the base of your spine, and that sometimes pulls you a little bit forwards and does create some low back issues. So, to do a hip flexor stretch, we get a wall just like this one right here. Go ahead and take a half kneeling position with your back foot on the wall, and go ahead and get up nice and tall. Make sure, again, my down knee, my hip, and my shoulder are in a straight line. I'm maintaining good posture. If you feel like you're being kind of pulled forward and into what we call hyperextension, your knee is probably too close to the wall, then just move it a little further away. Make sure you can stay nice, tall, good posture. Feel a stretch right in the front of your leg. Okay, this is just a kneeling hip flexor stretch. And the last one we mentioned was the hamstrings. Your hamstrings, again, part of the same posterior chain. An easy way to stretch out your hamstrings is to get a pole like this. You can use a door frame if you're at home. Go ahead and put your heel up on the wall like this. Make sure this leg is straight. Make sure your down leg is straight, palms up, lift that foot up, straight back down. The entire course of this exercise, make sure both legs stay straight, make sure those toes stay square forwards, don't let them flare open, and also make sure your hips stay on the ground. We don't want to see those hips lift up off the ground like that. Okay. The truth about a sore muscle or an injury tends to be that it's normally the muscle that is helping the hurt muscle or the less strong muscle work that becomes the one that's sore. So if you have a hamstring injury, sometimes it's due to a weak glute. In the case of the low back, poor hip flexors, poor glute function, and poor hamstrings do sometimes lead to low back pain or low back soreness. So these are a couple options for you to stretch instead of having to put your low back into flexion or into a dangerous position. Thanks for checking in with SPU. Be sure to check out our website at SportPerformanceU.com.